How many games will the Houston Texans win in 2025? What's going on, Texans fans? It's your boy Mail Jones here, back here with another NFL record prediction. And this time we'll be doing our NFL record prediction for the Houston Texans for a 2025 NFL season. Don't forget, I'll go by game analysis and thoughts to see which games I think the Texans will win and which game I think the Texans are going to lose. So before I give you 9 record predictions for the Houston Texans for a 2025 NFL season, don't forget, put a thumbs up to like the video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and comment down in your opinion below to see how many games you think, how far you think the Texans will be. Do you think the Texans are going to make the playoffs? Do you think they'll win the division? Or you think they're going to miss out on the playoffs? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. So basically, week 1, they have to go play versus the Rams on the road in LA. This is going to be an exciting game to watch. Now, this can go either way. Now, the Texans, defense is solid. And the Rams have a solid defense, too, with a great pass rush. But their secondary is suspect, though. They don't have any corners. Maybe C.J. Stroud can take advantage of that. And, both of their offensive lines are great. I say the Rams have a better O-line. The Rams got great weapons like Devontae Adams and Nakua. They got a good quarterback in Stafford. They got Sean McVay. But at the same time, this is going to be a fun game to watch. I think it will be close. But I'm not really sure if the Texans' offensive line is going to be ready for a pass rush, a good pass rush like the Rams. So basically, I'm going to go with the Rams here to win this game just because the Rams, they're at home in this game. And I think their defensive line is going to give C.J. Stroud tons of fits. Because, like I said, bad offensive lines don't travel well. So I think the Texans are probably going to struggle in that type in LA. And especially the game is in a dome in LA where it's tough to play at because they have to deal with that crowd noise and the communications and all that. So, yeah, I think the Rams will win that game. Week 2 against the Buccaneers on a Monday night primetime in Houston. This is going to be a fun game to watch. It could go either way. Now, I believe last time when these two teams played, I believe the Texans did win, which that was a shootout. But I'm going to take the Texans to win this game. And the reason for that is that I just think, the Texans, unlike the Bucs, I feel like both of their defenses are really good. They're both good against the run. In my opinion, the Bucs do have the best run defense in football. They can stop the run. They're very aggressive and they do blitz a lot. And their secondary is solid. And I think they'll find a way to at least I think they'll find a way to at least because I feel like if they blitz too much, I think C.J. Stroud is probably going to at least take advantage, especially with the weaponry with Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, and all that. And, But I just don't know if the Bucs are going to be able to at least move the ball against the Texans defense. That's really, really great. And, I feel like as long as you don't give up big plays to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and Kate Auden, I think they'll be fine because their cornerback group can match up with the Bucs receivers okay. So, yeah, because I feel like if the Bucs, if they can't run the ball, I think that's going to play in the Texans' hands. So, basically, I think the Texans should find a way to win this game, and especially at home. So, yeah. Next game, week 3 against Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Texans are going to lose to the Jags once. So I'm going to say the Jaguars win this game at home just because Duval is pretty much a tricky place to play at. And I just think, with the Jags, I just have a feeling that they might, their pass rush is kind of similar to the Texans. The Jags' defensive line is solid, but their pass defense is not great because basically they were one of the worst pass defenses in football last year. So maybe Stroud can take advantage of that. But at the same time, Jacksonville is a team where they usually play the Texans pretty tough, though. because the Jags, I feel like they're going to be an interesting team this year. They got a new head coach in Liam Cohen, who could be familiar with. They have a really good, you know, offensive explosive weapons. Um, that can really give, they can like really give the Texans offense tons of fits. So yeah, I expect a good game out of the Jags defense. I expect a good game, out of Trevor Lawrence. So I think the Jags will win this game in the first matchup. Then next game against Tennessee Titans. You know what? The Texans should easily win this game. I mean, good luck. Texans are more talented, better quarterback, better coaching staff. They're at home. Titans got a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. I wouldn't trust a rookie on the road, especially against that good of a defense like the Texans. That's the Texans' win advantage. Then next game against the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, I think they'll lose to the Ravens. Here's why. Now, the Ravens, have totally given the Texans offense a lot of problems, especially they have given the Texans a lot of problems, especially on both sides of the ball. Even last year, the Ravens did dismantle them, which that was the worst game we ever seen the Texans play, like as on offense as a defense, where they barely couldn't score any points. So yeah, so basically, I think this is a bad matchup for the Texans because the Ravens' ability to run the ball and also their physicality. So yeah. So I think the Ravens are probably going to be too much for the Texans, especially, you got to deal with Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flower, D-Hop, Bateman, Mark Andrews. Yeah. You got to deal with the Ravens defense as well with their corner groups. I think they can play sticky coverage against your weaponry. So, yeah. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it will be close, though. But I do expect the Ravens to pull this one off. Then you get the bye week. Then after the bye week, they have to play week 7. They play against the Seahawks in Seattle on a Monday night. I know Seattle on a Monday night is tricky. I know it's tough to play in Seattle because of the environment. But I'm going to go with the Texans here to win this game. But I could totally see the Seahawks win this game. But I'm going with the Texans here because I just think, the Texans are coming off a bye. They're going to have extra time to prepare, extra time to rest. And eventually, the Texans, I feel like the weaknesses of the Seahawks is their offensive line. So I just don't really think their offensive line is going to be able to match up with the Texans' pass rush. I think the Texans' pass rush is going to give the Seahawks' offensive line and Sam Darnold some fits. And I just think, as long as you don't give a big plays to Cooper Kupp, I think you should be fine because your secondary is talented. They'll find a way to at least like cover the Seahawks weapons. I mean, Derek Stingley and Cooper Kupp's a really good matchup. So yeah. So I feel like just lock him down and all that. So yeah. And I just feel like the Seahawks are just a much more complete team and have the better quarterback. And they're just a more explosive offense. Yeah, we know Mike McDonald has given CJ Stroud tons of fits and all that in the past since he was Baltimore, but I feel like the Texans offense are going to find a way to move the ball against them in Seattle. So, yeah, so I think the Texans will win this game. Convincingly. Then week 8, you got to play against San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, this is going to be a fun game to watch, but I am going with the Texans here to win this game because I just think the Texans, I just have a feeling that, the Texans are just, they slightly have an overall better team, in my opinion. But I think the Niners are pretty much a better version of the Texans. But in my opinion, I think the Texans, I think the weaknesses of the 49ers is their offensive line. And I feel like the Texans' defensive line can totally overwhelm that and take advantage and make life difficult on Brock Purdy. Because if the Niners cannot run the ball, that's going to play in the Texans' hands. And I feel like, Derek Stingley versus Ayuk, Kittle versus Chauncey Gardner Johnson is a good matchup. So if they can lock him down, force the Niners to run the ball, I think Texans will be in good shape. And so yeah, I think this is gonna be more of a defensive game in my opinion. But I feel like the Niners, their defense is pretty young, so maybe CJ Stroud can take advantage of that. And I feel like their offensive line can like open up holes where they could be in position to run the ball. So yeah, so basically, and this is a even coaching matchup because D'Amico Ryan is probably familiar with the Niners. So yeah, so I'm going to Texans here at home. Week 9 against Denver Broncos. I think they'll beat the Broncos, but I think this is going to be a good game though. But if this game was in Denver, I might go the other way. But I'm going with the Texans here because I think the Texans, are gonna find a way to on defense, to like I think they'll find a way to at least make life difficult on Bo Nix and make him uncomfortable. Because I don't think the Broncos are gonna have much of a running game to at least like overpower the Texans. Because I just don't think, their running game is a lot explosive. But the Broncos don't really have a lot of weapons on offense other than Cortland Sutton and Evan Ingram that can really like scare you. And I just think, the Texans secondary should be able to play at least sticky coverage against an underwhelming receiving core. Derek Stanley versus Cortland Sutton's a good matchup. So you can just lock them down, make the Broncos throw the ball to other people. So, yeah. But in my opinion, I think the Texans could be a little bit more explosive offensively. And, maybe the Broncos defense can really give the Texans offense tons of problem because, so yeah, maybe they can. But at the same time, the Texans are at home and they just got the better quarterback. And I just think they're just a more complete team overall. So yeah, so in a pretty much even coaching matchup. So yeah, and I understand that D'Amico Ryans he has given Sean Payton a lot of problems. Maybe his defense will come to play and all that. So yeah, I feel like this is going to be a low scoring game, but I feel like the Texans will pull this one off. Next game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they'll split with the Jaguars. So I give the Texans a win here because the Texans pretty much own Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville may not have much to play for, but they could though because Jacksonville's going to be an interesting team, but I don't think they're going to be any good this year. And I just think the Texans are just the way much more talented team. They're at home in this game. They pretty much got the better quarterback, so and better coaching as well. So yeah, I think the Texans will win the second matchup. Then week 11 against the Titans, I feel like this is a game the Texans could lose to. But at the same time, I'm going to go with the Titans to at least sweep the season series. I feel like Tennessee's not going to have much to play for because I don't think they're going to be able to make the playoffs this year. While the Texans, are looking to at least go on a playoff run. So, yeah. And, the Texans pretty much are more talented, have the better quarterback, better coaching staff. They have more to play for. So, yeah, I think the Texans will win that game. Then week 12 against the Buffalo Bills on a Thursday night short week. This is another game that can go either way. Now, last year when these two teams played, I believe the Texans did win this game, which they did win by a field goal. So, yeah, I think the Texans are going to win this game again because I like what I saw last year. And I think the Texans defensively, if they can force like a bad game from Josh Allen, I feel like anything could be possible because they match up well with the Bills really good. And I just think, your secondary matches up well with the Bills, so I think they'll find a way to at least get sticky against an underwhelming receiving core of the Bills. And I kind of really feel like with a lack of weaponry that the Bills really have on offense, that probably is going to play into the Texans' hand, and I don't know if the Bills' offense can do much on it. But the Bills did play the Texans pretty well, so don't get me wrong. They did, and it was close. So, yeah, I think the Texans, find a way. I feel like they have more weapons on offense, and if might find more ways to win, move the ball. Like, yeah. like they can control the game, keep Josh Allen on the sidelines. Yeah, so I think the Texans will win, but I would not be shocked if the Bills won. I think the only way the Bills can win this game is that if their defense can force a back game from Stroud, and then offensively they can just like move the ball to like dice up the Texans defense, keeping Stroud off the field and all that. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills won, but I just have a feeling the Texans are going to pull this one off. So yeah, so basically, as you all see it, they're on a 6-game winning streak, and they're set 8-3, looking pretty good. Then they got to play against the Colts, week 13. This is interesting though. I could see them sweeping the Colts because basically last season I believe they did sweep the Colts, but for some reason I think they're going to lose to the Colts once this year, just because the Colts, typically play, the Texans pretty tough. Even with Anthony Richardson, they did like a few years ago. So yeah, and I feel like that, the Colts do have a coaching matchup against Shane Steichen and Big Lou. I feel like if their defense can force a bad game from Stroud, I mean, that'll be possible that the Colts can win. And then if their offense can like just hum in the game and find a way to at least like move the ball in the Texans defense, I think anything can be possible that the Colts can win. So I think the Colts will win this first matchup. Then week 14 against Kansas City Chiefs. I obviously have the Chiefs beating the Texans, and here's why. Um, the reason why I have to have the Chiefs beating the Texans is because the Chiefs, their defense is very fast, and I just feel like the Texans' offensive line is going to have a lot of trouble moving the ball and all that because I don't really think the Texans are going to be able to move the ball on the Chiefs' defense, especially the Chiefs are good against the run, and that will play in the Chiefs' hands. And maybe the Chiefs' offense may not be able to move the ball on the Texans and all that because, the Chiefs could be a fast offense as well. But at the same time, the Chiefs' defense does match up well with the Texans really good because they have a pass rush that can get after Stroud. They have the secondary to cover against Nico Collins. Like, yeah. So, yeah, because I think the Chiefs offensively can find a way to at least like secure the line of scrimmage, control the game, keep Stroud off the field. So, yeah, so. But I feel like if they can force a bad game from Mahomes, anything can be possible. But the Chiefs have totally beaten the Texans throughout the last couple of seasons. And until I see the Texans beat the Chiefs, then I'll pick them. So I'm not buying the Texans beating the Chiefs. So, yeah. So that's back-to-back losses. Then week 15, they got to play against the Cardinals. I think they'll bounce back and beat the Cardinals because I feel like the Texans are just a more complete team and have the better quarterback and the better coaching staff, and they're at home, and they're the more complete team. The Cardinals, I feel like Kyler Murray could totally fall apart and at the end of the season because sometimes he's very inconsistent. He can be inconsistent at times, but he's average in my opinion. But the Cardinals did improve their defense enough to confuse CJ Stroud, but at the same time, I don't think the Cardinals are going to do much on defense, and the lack of the cornerback group that the Cardinals have, I don't really see how they're going to be able to cover Nico Collins or Christian Kirk and Tank Dell. He could be totally active for this game. So if he is, I mean, that'll be perfect. Like I think CJ Stroud can dice them up and all that, but maybe the Texans can run the ball on them a little bit. So yeah. And the Texans do have the better defense as well, which I think they might make life difficult on Kyler Murray. And I think they can like force them to run the ball. And Marvin Harrison Jr. and Derek Stingley is a good matchup. CJ Gardner Johnson and Trey McBride is a good matchup. So as long as the Texans don't give up big plays to those guys, I think they should be fine. So you can just lock them down, force Arizona to run the ball, force Kyler to beat you. But I think the game will be close. But I think the Texans come out with the dub. Then week 16 against the Las Vegas Raiders, I actually got the Texans beating the Raiders because I just think the Raiders are a little bit inconsistent. They don't really have a lot of explosive weapons that really scare you, other than Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers is fine, but he's not like an explosive target. But their offensive line is average. Their defense is good, especially up front, but their back end, their defense, like the secondary, is a little bit sketchy. So I think CJ Stroud can take advantage of that. And the Texans should move the ball against them. And Texans do have the better defense as well, which I think they'll find a way to at least like get after Geno, make life difficult on them. And I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to run the ball enough on them. I think the Texans will run the ball better than them as an offense because I feel like the Texans are just a more explosive offense. And, I think their secondary against the Raiders can totally get sticky against an underwhelmed receiving core, which that's probably going to allow Geno Smith into some mistakes and bad throws. So, yeah, I like the Texans here to win at home, especially, in the dome where they have the better coaching staff, better quarterback, and they're just a much more talented team. So yeah, that's why I got the Texans winning. Week 17 against the Chargers. This is on a Saturday. This game can go either way. Most people could be picking the Texans because of that playoff game we saw a couple of months ago. Because I kind of remember in that playoff game a couple of months ago that the Texans defense did give the Chargers offense tons of fits, and D'Amico Ryans, I kind of really felt like he did a really good job keeping Herbert on his toes. Like they found a way to like rattle Justin Herbert. Like, yeah, like they game plan really well against them. So I feel like D'Amico Ryan can totally get him a couple times, but I don't really know because the game's in LA and going to LA is totally not easy. But I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game just because I think the Chargers, they're at home in this game, and going to LA is kind of a tough place to play at. And I just think the Chargers, with their speed, you know, the Chargers are like a power running team, and sometimes they don't really play a high power complex defense, which I think that kind of allows CJ Stroud to sit back and pick apart that defense. But the weakness of the Chargers is their cornerback group. Maybe the Texans can take advantage of that. And their defense, the Chargers, is good, but it's not as good as the Texans though. But I think the Chargers defense can at least force a bad game from Stroud, and I think they can really give the Texans offense tons of fits and make life difficult on them. But here's the thing. Last year, the Texans defense did give up big plays to Ladd McConkey. That's something you got to remember. They did because Ladd McConkey almost had like 200 receiving yards in that game. But still, the Chargers still lost the game. So I feel like as long as you don't really give up big plays to Ladd McConkey, I feel like that the Texans will be in good shape. So yeah, and the Chargers do have a talented quarterback as well, and Herbert's really good at like dicing up good defenses. So yeah, so I think if the Chargers can control the ball, keep Stroud off the field, I think that's going to allow them in good shape to them to win the game. And the Chargers do have a solid offensive line that's much improved. I think they'll be able to control your pass rush. I think they'll control the game, keep Stroud on the sidelines. So yeah, I think the Chargers will win that game. Then last game, week 18 of the season against the Colts, I think they'll split the Colts. So I give them a win here because the Colts, I don't think they're really good. And, they don't have much to play for because they're not going to make the playoffs. And the Texans, like I said, they're looking to clinch a playoff berth and all that. So, yeah. And Texans just got the more experienced quarterback, better coaching, and there's the more talented team. So, yeah. So, basically, I have the Texans going 11-6, which that's pretty much good enough to win the division. So, yeah. So, basically, I think the Texans 11-6 is good enough for the playoffs and good enough to win the division, but they could totally move up to either the third or fourth seed. But I kind of have them as a fourth seed. I wouldn't be shocked if they move to the third seed. So yeah. So I got the Texans, at 11-6 because I feel like the Texans, are just a much complete talented team in that division. But as you look at their schedule, it's tough because they have to play the NFC West, which is the most competitive division in football. They have to play the Rams, Seahawks, Niners. They haven't even got to play a much improved Cardinals team. They gotta play the another competitive division, which is the AFC West, which they have to play the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. Um, yeah, they gotta play the Jags twice, the Bills. And they gotta play the Ravens as well. I feel like the only good team that they don't play is like the Steelers, the Bengals, and the NFC North teams, which is the Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears. And they don't really play the NFC East team, which is the Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, and they don't really play the Patrons as well. So yeah, so this is a difficult schedule. So I think the Texans can probably go somewhere from I think they'll go somewhere from 9 to 11 wins, maybe 12 at best. But I feel like 9 to 11 wins is about right. I feel like the Texans are the much complete team in that division. So yeah, but I can see some other games. I can see the Texans at least winning. Like I can see them sweeping the Jaguars if Trevor Lawrence is hurt. But like I said, if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, I think they'll beat the Texans once. I can see them sweeping the Colts. I can see them. I can really see them beating the Chiefs or the Chargers. And some games I can totally see them losing to. Like I can see them, losing to the Broncos. I could see them lose to the 49ers. I can see them lose to the Seahawks. Like other games I can see them dropping. So yeah, so I think 9-8 to 11-6 is about right. I feel like 11-6 is about right for the Texans to win division. So yeah. But my question is, will the defense be close to top 5 level? Who knows? Will the offensive line did enough to at least improve and help protect CJ Stroud? Will the weapons on offense after the loss of Diggs, find a way to score some points? Like will they find a way to at least be explosive? Like who knows? So yeah, so I got the Texans at 11-6. So let me know in the comments section below what you guys think and how you guys feel about the Texans. This is your boy Mail Jones, big fan. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later. Peace.